Select Board meeting. We're going to be starting with an executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, on February 9th tonight, and we are going to be moving into room 303 to start our meeting there. And when we are done, we will be coming back into this room for regular session as close to 6:30 as possible. During Executive Board, we will discuss the following. D. Kenny versus the Town of Dartmouth, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation when an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on litigation position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Also, J. Story versus the Town of Dartmouth, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation when an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on litigation position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Our third item will be a collective bargaining with all unions, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Those are the three items that will be going into executive session. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
In a second. Thank you, Mr. Mickelson and Mr. McDonald. Tonight, Mr. Tattlebaum is joining us via Zoom, so he will be on the screen, and because of that, we will be taking a roll call vote. So, going into executive session, Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
And myself, yes. We will see you back here at 6:30. going to bring our Select Board meeting, regular session, to order. Our meeting is being recorded. We have one member of our board that is here via Zoom, so we will be taking a roll call with all of our votes. Before we start our business, if I can get everyone to please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I ask that you remain standing and call to mind our thanks to the soldiers, past and present, serving both here and abroad. Thank you. We'll start this evening with a hearing. So I'd like to open the hearing of the Eversource petition to install 6 new poles, JOES, in the right-of-way of High Hill Road. Do we need to take a roll to open the hearing?
Yes.
Yes, okay, to open the hearing, I'd like to take a roll call. Mr. O'Neill?
Yes, here.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson? Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
And myself. So we are now opening the hearing. Mr. Haddad, do you have some information?
Yes, so, typically, if there's a new pole install, Eversource comes before the board for the approval. We did learn that late last week, it appears there was some miscommunication on Eversource's end, and they actually already installed these poles, which obviously isn't great because there was not approval before the board yet. So Anthony Vallejo is here on behalf of Eversource. We've had some conversations. Eversource is certainly not thrilled themselves that this happened. We understand mistakes happen, but there's a process for a reason. So I'll let Anthony kind of describe that, but I just wanted to let the board know that these were installed without the board's approval at this point.
All righty then, Anthony.
Mr. Administrator, thanks for that, and Madam Chairwoman, thanks for having me tonight. I just wanted to start and just to apologize on behalf of Eversource for installing these poles prior to the hearing. First, I received the correspondence from the Town Administrator's office on Thursday, went out and looked at it myself, saw that the poles were installed, reconvened with my electric operations team, learned how that might have happened. What also came right back to Town Hall, sat down with the Town Administrator, went through some of those issues. I also, from learning what had happened, I went back and knocked on the door of 613 High Hill, met with that homeowner. We looked at the 2 poles closest to his property that were installed, talked with him a little bit, and as a solution, especially to him, because I think he's the one where the complaint came in, we can adjust one of those poles. He did talk about a little bit of a sight line in his backyard. More than happy to adjust one of those, maybe in the springtime when the weather is a little bit warmer. I didn't see him here tonight, so I can always revisit that issue with him. Second, I just want to say that there's no excuse for that. We should do a much better job of following our own work order process and internally. It was just human error. Someone was just looking at the wrong work order and installed the poles just by pure accident. It wasn't malicious, it wasn't intentional, thinking we weren't going to get the approvals tonight. It was just an honest mistake, and that was handled internally by the electric operations team. Secondly, so I wanted to discuss 2 solutions with you. One I already mentioned about anybody that had an issue with the poles that are installed on this petition, more than happy to go back, take a look, and readjust any pole. We can move them like 5-10 feet or so in either direction. If that's the situation, more than happy to do that and redo the work. Second, without a grant allocation, we can't set new poles. And this petition is for mid-span poles, but we can replace existing poles. So talking to electric operations, one of the solutions we had was no work started unless a grant allocation is in hand. That's including replacing existing poles, unless it's an emergency or something like that, right? So I think that was a pretty good solution that they offered to me to bring back to you, the board.
So typically, what would happen would be that you would send the paperwork in so that we can discuss it and notify the abutters. So the abutters, I would assume, were not notified before your truck showed up.
Correct.
Okay.
They were notified for this hearing, but I think
But
that work
not
was done.
before
Right, right. That work was already
Actually
done.
started.
Yep.
You would have also called for a police detail, correct?
Yes, that has like a nice curve to that road, so absolutely, there should have been, I'm almost positive there was a police detail when that work was done.
Okay, it looks like the gentleman whose property
There
is
was
here.
definitely a police detail the whole time that work was being done.
Okay,
I'm on the shop curb.
okay, and so there needs to be a police
There was
detail.
definitely a police detail the whole time.
Okay, so just that is as part of your internal communication as a sign-off, and when we're ready. Have we submitted this to the select board? Have we notified the abutters? Do we have the approval of the select board? And then the police detail. Yeah.
The
So
crews
we gotta,
order the
you gotta
detail?
have that.
Yep.
Unfortunately, this is not the first time.
Correct.
That I have heard that this has happened. So, but this is the most concerning because the pole location and a complaint was filed, so. All right. So, the gentleman did come in, so, this is 613 High Hill Road, okay. I'm gonna have, if you take a moment, I'm gonna have you come to the podium, and I've announced your address, but you can tell us who you are.
That's all right.
And then tell us what the issue, because he was, before you came in, he was telling us some of the possible solutions. So you
Hi,
are
I'm Alan Mello.
Alan Mello, okay,
I live at 613 High Hill Road.
okay.
And the reason I emailed you guys was because the work was already done, and I thought, why are we having a meeting for work that's already completed? Was my thing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
because we didn't know it was completed.
You know, it's kind of useless to have a meeting
Right.
after fact.
Yeah,
And then I had other concerns about it because, is that in violation of the open meeting laws now? That could put the town and us taxpayers paying for that. Or is they gonna get fined for this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's the solutions on that, really? Or they can just gonna do this all the time and just,
no.
and nothing gets done, and it's just like, oh, I'm sorry type of deal, And the guy, he's a real nice dude. I'm sure it wasn't him that even put in this stuff. The guy's really nice. I talked to him for a while. It's not his fault.
So is the pole on your property?
I have two.
Two.
New ones.
All right, is one of them or both of them in a problematic?
I
area?
explained to him, it's not but I'm on a bad curb. You know what I mean? So, anything in the views
Yeah.
on either side of me is kind of in the way a little bit. You know what I mean? But, I'm not going to make the dude rip it up either. Because to me, that's a waste of money too. And,
Well,
after all, we all do end up paying for that sooner or later in our bills.
Pulling up the
So-
map. He's going to come up and tell us the options
But,
that he was talking about just before you
okay.
walked in the door. So thank you. And then we're going to tell you what the overall solution will be. Yeah.
No,
So, right, at his location, there's one, as you come around the curve, right, we had talked about the one, it's sort of impacts the site coming around the curve a little bit. I had to get back with engineering and ops. We might be able to move that one a little further down so it doesn't impact you pulling out of your driveway from the curve. Then the other one you can see from your backyard, I can move that one closer to the tree line to be hidden by that shorter tree that you have closer to your house. I'll call you up and we'll revisit the situation with ops and my overhead supervisor and make sure that that's something that we can achieve. Because he's got a perfect tree on the side there in the layout that I think we can hide it right behind.
Okay. And of the poles installed, the 6 poles installed, all others were installed correctly to those neighbors? No one else is here?
And the remaining poles are Just to give you guys a little bit of, I think sometimes we don't give enough information on these hearings for you to understand the full picture. We replaced these poles are now, we went from 40 to 45s, so they're a little bit taller, and they sit at the top of the tree line, sometimes above the tree line. We also ran a thicker tree cable, so as these smaller branches maybe fall off during a storm, hit a wire, instead of just breaking the wire, maybe catching on fire, they'll shake it off. A little more sturdier, a little more reliable, a little more resilient. We also shortened the spans. The reason for this work is we call it make ready. And I think some of the confusion was it goes into Freetown, Bullock Road. So it's 16 poles, 8 mid-spans. We set the 6 here in Dartmouth. I think there's 2 or 3 in Freetown. Continues on. It's 2 circuits. So at Kelly Drive, Bullock Road, we call it's the 102 circuit. That's a 3-phase, ends right about there. There's 16 spans as you come into Dartmouth before the next 3-phase picks up. That's the 107 circuit. At some point in the future, those 2 3-phases will connect at some point along High Hill or Bullock Road. And that's why we put in these new poles to prepare for 3-phase in the future. And that it just was a simple mistake, yeah.
I'm just looking at the map of them as you're talking to see where they're located, and I can see exactly the 613 poles. That would be, just so if anyone else is looking, page 12.
And one more item, we also talked about a street light in front of his house. I think I still have to do a little investigating on who put the street light back up on the pole, but he said it faces.
It's sideways now. Instead of being straight on, like straight, it's sideways, and I don't think it lights up the road as well as it did when it was straight on, you know? Because it's kind of like more on one side of the road. It's kind of crooked a little bit, puts a glare into the windows. But that's not the big problem. The big problem is really lighting up that corner, because that corner is very dangerous. You know, we do have a lot of accidents on that corner.
I'm sure you do.
And we do not need one more.
In 9 years I've lived there, there's probably at least one every year. And I don't know if you remember last year, there was a guy on a motorcycle that hit the corner and they brought him back to life with the paddles. That was in my driveway. So yeah, I don't really want accidents on that corner.
No.
So in replacing the pole, if our guys put the pole in the new one, I'll check with DPW and we'll have it adjusted.
Okay.
Sure. Make sure he's happy.
Yeah.
Did you have something, Mr. McDonald?
Well, the only thing is, I want to make sure that, Mr. Mello, right?
Yes.
I want to make sure Mr. Mello is happy. I mean, he's taken care of. I know it'd be difficult to penalize Eversource, but maybe we can get something out of it, like the removal of all the double poles in town within a 2-year period would be wonderful. As a
Penance?
yeah, as a penance, and
Sure.
and you know, an Eversource in their holy, feeling so bad that they can remove one. If they can remove all double poles in the town of Dartmouth within a 2-year period, then they remove double poles completely. It's one community that doesn't get reported. I think that would be something to work on.
It's a tall task, but I'll take it back.
I am curious, though, when did this work happen? I'm looking at the dates of all of these letters. So this should have come before us sometime in September?
Should have come to us if the dates.
Just looking at the dates?
Yeah, the dates on the.
9/26,
September.
2005, and October 2nd, 2005,
Yeah.
so
Should have been here before.
this was
in August.
a big oops. So, again, as I stated, internally at Eversource is the filing and notification of the abutters, the wait till we have the select board hearing, then knowing the timetable, get the police detail, and move forward. That is the strongly worded letter.
I think that the as the board, if you guys put a motion that we can't start work without a grant allocation in hand, and that if there's a capital improvement or system improvement project, something like this, that at least, not saying if we want us to come in front of the board, we can do that. I have 30 towns, so it's a little bit of relief. I try to go to as many as possible, but that's a lot. At least a notification into the town administrator's office that they can give to you, so you understand what's coming in front of you before anything gets started.
I think Cody can have something worded for us at
Yeah.
our next meeting.
Yep. And
we
I
can
do
take
know
care of that.
that what you provide to us with the maps has been enough for me in the past. Is there anyone on the board that feels that we need?
It's more comfortable. We've got a good feeling about it.
Sure.
Yeah. It's, Mr. O'Neill.
Madam Chair, the only thing that I can add to this really is, since the abutters were just notified of this hearing, correct?
Yes.
Is there a way to keep a window open for people that have issues when they come home from Florida and they notice this pole that's too close to the driveway, or whatever problems that might come up? In this particular job order, if those situations, if we're alerted to those, can we bring those to you and have the people go out in the field with those particular homeowners? Just to, what I don't want is, I don't want them to have to call, not get through, not get a call back. In this particular job order, I think we need to break this out. Allow the homeowners a window of opportunity, because they probably would have been here in August or September when this was should have been brought forward, but now they're probably going to be in Florida until April or May.
Anything that comes in front of the board or the town administrator's office from any resident, bring it right to me. We'll sort it right out.
All right. Thank you.
And I can move any pole, within reason.
Okay. To my knowledge,
Ms. Brooks?
You got, Tara?
I hear a voice. Mr. Tattelbaum.
Might recommend that the Eversource sends a letter to the resident and to Cody that detail what's going to be done on that project, the timetable. I know some stuff won't be till the spring. Is that necessary?
Oh, that is what typically does happen in advance of our hearing. The abutters are all notified of the hearing. And that's why
I'm talking
they,
about just this particular project, what's going to be done on that property to move those two poles.
oh,
Moving forward.
Sure.
to move the pole, you want
Whatever
us to
they're
be
going to do,
notified,
and the light and everything else, everything.
Right.
and the light.
Keep all the.
On the pole.
Suggestion to keep all the homeowners, in the loop. They can't say that you haven't been, upfront with them all along, and make it easier on the homeowners and easier on you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Can do that.
Thank you.
And the light is on us. We'll contact our light guy.
Well, it's-
One other thing,
Whoops.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
The poles now, you went from 45, whatever it is, to a little taller. So, am I correct in assuming that there are multiple uses on these poles? You've got, and I'll let you
Yeah, so
expound on who.
the increase
who's
in
on
height
the
too,
poles.
there's also more space for telecom and or cable and any other third-party attacher that's looking to attach to those poles.
And those other entities are, besides you, telephone?
Telephone, cable, sometimes municipal fiber, it could be fire police in a town, really depends. And I think these are joint owned, right?
That's correct.
So it would be us and Verizon as the joint owners, and that means that there will be a third-party attachment on these poles.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Seems ridiculous, but we do need to vote. We need to close the hearing, and then we need to vote on this.
In favor, not in favor, then close the hearing.
Close the hearing first.
No.
If there's anyone to speak
Oh,
in favor.
anyone in the audience to speak in favor of, not in favor of the project? That was already completed. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mello. Thank you. Anyone on the board? Anything else to say before we close the hearing? Not seeing any, we will close the hearing. To close the hearing? Do I need to do a roll call to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded.
Second.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
And myself. So we've closed the hearing, and now we are going to vote.
Motion to approve the poll locations with the caveat that Eversource contact the homeowners affected by these polls, and that if the homeowners have any issues with the new poll locations, that they sit down with Eversource and and that they agree upon if a new location needs to be done, whatnot. And I won't throw in the codicil about the double polls for 2 years.
Thank you.
Make that a gentleman's agreement.
You got it.
All right, if we are in favor of this, we will vote now. Mr. O'Neill?
Need a second?
Yes.
Yeah, second.
Seconded and in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
And then Mrs. Brooks, yes. So we will now go forth on that. We'll sign up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thanks again.
All
Thanks,
right.
Mr. Mello, by the way.
Yes,
Thank you for coming
coming
in.
out.
Just a
All right, next on our list is new business, a temporary trailer permit, TP 261 for 0 Jason Drive, Dartmouth. Up, and we have someone here, okay?
Hi, good evening. My name is Layla Texera, and I own 0 Jason Drive. And the reason I'm here today is because the reason for the trailer is because I have 2 youngest children that are still in school, and one is in middle school getting ready to graduate. And the school department, we had to kind of sell our previous house that we had on Smith Neck last minute due to my husband's health issues. And we decided that we would build on Jason Drive. So we are currently living out of district for short term, and we've asked the school to work with us if the kids could just finish the year until we are able to go back in September while we build. So they've asked for so many things from us, and we've provided everything they've asked. They said we have to reside in Dartmouth, and we're willing to do whatever we can. And then the other thing, they said that we could put a trailer on the property to sleep there. And that's the only reason I'm doing it, for my kids to be able to finish, because she's in 8th grade, my youngest daughter, and she wants to be able to graduate with her friends. So that is the reason I'm here.
Right. So we have nothing to do with the school department. That is
Yes.
the school department, school committee issue. We're just looking at the request to put the trailer on. So I believe that you have received a letter from Chris Michaud, who's our director of the Board of Health.
I didn't receive a letter, but I think an email was sent, yes.
Okay, an
Yes.
email. So he is asking us that the select board condition the permit if issued as follows. And so I'm just going through this just to make sure that no occupancy of the trailer until approved DPW connection of the trailer is made to the town sewer system. No occupancy of the trailer until the approved DPW connection of the trailer is made to the town's public water distribution system.
Yes.
No occupancy until the applicant demonstrates adequate solid waste disposal for the temporary housing. No house on the lot, so its eligibility for the SMART program is not customary, and they would need to discuss with the appropriate departments of the town to assure compliance. So that's the SMART, as you know, since you lived here, is the recycling program
Yes,
and the
which
trash.
my husband
pickup.
has a business that we could dispose of. That would be a big deal that I could provide letter.
They should be able to give you, once the trailer's there, they should be
Okay.
able to give you that.
Okay.
Fire department sign off to assure appropriate life safety devices are present as noted in the application comment section, noted life safety devices. Applicant must note the total number of occupants and the inspection of the unit must occur to determine adequate space for the intended number of occupants. So for your husband and yourself and your children. And so those are all the things that Mr. Michaud is asking us to be aware of before we grant the permit for the trailer. You have, through your paperwork, you have said that you believe it would be, that you would need 12 months of residing in the trailer.
Yes.
I'm just looking at the rest of the permits and who's been
It looks like,
signed off.
yeah, if the board were to approve, just make it conditional upon all departmental sign-off. DPW has not yet received a site plan, neither has conservation, so they have not been able to sign off.
Yeah, and then the chief also has, Chief Lancaster has, and you'll be able to see this in the portal, about the smoke detectors and the alarm devices, also from Chris Michaud. Paul Duart from the DPW has information in here. There's a lot of hoops
Yeah,
here.
it's not even worth it. And again, I'm only doing this for my kids. Like, we're getting ready to start building in like a month. It's just too cold to dig right now. And we have like all of our approvals. We sent the
All your permits have been put in through the board of, through the building department?
It has, yes.
There is no building permit.
It hasn't been issued. I have to work with something, but I kind of delayed it. I told them I would take care of the next month, but we have to adjust our plans. But the reason, like, I'm not even rushing to build I'm only rushing for my kids.
Right. So, completely out of my lane, you may want to look at rental, instead of rental of a trailer, rental of a house.
Yeah.
And I've driven by a couple. So.
Financially, we have houses and the reason we left district because of my husband's health.
Yeah.
We have 2 properties in New Bedford that's paid off. So financially, it doesn't make sense for us to go rent something for $3,000 when we sold our beautiful house because of financial decisions. And again, I know this is not the right place to talk about the school. It's just for the kids. I'm not even looking to put a trailer on the property. It's just for my kids to be able to finish school.
So you would not use the trailer for a full year at all,
I wouldn't, sir,
until the end of school,
until the end of school. It's just for them to build
in 2026?
in 2026. She's in 8th grade. She she has dance coming up. She has graduation. We lived in Dartmouth all of our lives, and she only has friends in Dartmouth. This is, and again, I'm not here because I want to live in a trailer. I have a beautiful house where I'm living in right now. It's just for the kids. They need an address, and I own the property. I paid taxes until January on our previous house. I know this is not the place for it, but I don't even know who to ask for
I
help.
almost feel like I want to go, la, 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 I didn't hear you say that you actually will not live here.
I know. But I will
I don't
if I
think
have
that's
to.
appropriate either. So I
Yes.
guess, the only thing in front of us is to approve the placement of the trailer, because that's all that is in our powers, with, as Mr. McDonald said, the caveat that all permits and requirements by all other departments be fulfilled.
It's probably going to take a long time because I have to go, I know I have to go through DPW, but if it's to get an extension, and I rushed this meeting because they said you guys only do it twice a month, I think. and they told me downstairs that it would probably be better to come up here first. So that's the reason I'm here, but I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to keep the kids where they are, but because DPW can't get there to dig right now with a cold.
Excuse me. Did you purchase the trailer already?
We have friends that have one that I would consider
They're going to let you use it, yeah?
that I can't afford to buy one. That would be,
They're quite expensive.
yes. Or lease one maybe.
Well,
Make a motion that we approve the trailer pending with the conditions that all departments signed off on the permit application.
Second.
motion made by Mr. McDonald, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. Any other questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can, you know what, I'll take it up as a separate. Go ahead.
We're going to vote on the motion made on the floor. Okay? Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson? Mrs. Brooks, yes.
All right, so as a separate item but related, I'm wondering if this board would be okay with a direction of the town administrator to reach out to the school board. We don't have any say about the policies of the school board, as you know. But I'm wondering if the town administrator, under our direction, could request that the school board review and consider the residency section in your particular situation,
Okay.
formally.
Okay. That would be great. Thank you.
The problem that I think they'll probably see is that this is a pretty unique situation from what I can see. This is a town resident who had previously owned and been in town for quite a long time, currently has 2 children in the school department, one ready to graduate 8th grade.
Yes.
8th grade. May or may not go to the Dartmouth High School, but that's regardless. Current taxpayer on the land, but as you know, land is not a permanent residence.
Yes.
Until the house is built on it. So in a situation like this, where we have someone that happened to sell their primary, may or may not have come to the school department to explain that, and it is your intent to build your primary home on that lot?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, so with the intent of building their primary home on a lot that they've already purchased?
We have been paid it off.
You've already purchased the lot in Dartmouth. So in a situation like this, I can't imagine that this comes up very often, but it would seem to me that the school board may or may not,
Okay.
reconsider their current policy to handle this type of situation, not yours in particular, but a situation like this, which I believe is pretty unique. So,
Mr. O'Neill, I understand that, and what you're asking us to do then, and I will let you decide, is to ask the school committee to reconsider.
yes.
So to know is that Mr. Haddad has already spoken to them about doing that.
The board, so the board would,
He
Spoke to
spoke to-
superintendent, but I mean, if that's something the board would like, I can draft a letter on behalf of the select board. and
yeah,
send
well,
it.
see, the problem that you have in a situation like that, I would assume, is that the school administration is one thing. The school committee is in charge of policy. So if there's a change in policy is required, then it wouldn't be the administration. The hands would be tied until the policy is addressed. So my request would be that we reach out to the school board and ask if they can take it up formally. As a request to the select board. And they can deny it, but I think it's important enough in such a unique situation that it may warrant it. All they can say is no. or yes?
They did give us until the 13th. I keep on extending and extending because I was waiting for the meeting. So.
13th of February,
A Friday, yeah.
to have the kids taken out of school
To
and
have
brought
the
to
kids
New Bedford?
removed, yes.
But they haven't been in school.
No, they're in school now, but they gave them until Friday to leave.
They're in school
Which is
currently.
typical.
Yeah.
The school department would give them to a natural break in the school year.
Right.
To make that break.
Right.
Just, if I may, Madam
Yep.
Chair, just so the applicant's aware, the board approved it, but you do not have the permit yet. You
Okay.
still need to go through on the portal where you submitted,
Yes.
and you need to respond to all of those comments. And once all of those are satisfied, then you will have the permit. So you'll definitely want to act on that sooner than later, because you won't have the permit until everything's been approved.
Yes.
The board's conditioned it upon all those approvals. So
Okay.
you still need to respond to the DPW, the Board of Health, and Conservation.
Okay,
So
and
if-
again, if they do approve the kids to stay, I'd rather move on with my permit for the house, which is more important for us, and spend all that money with DPW for the house instead of a trailer. So I guess it depends what they come back with as a decision, the school, because I'm only doing this for the kids for the school.
When is their meeting?
Which one? The kids?
School committee?
So I actually reached out to school committee. I wrote a letter to each and every one of them, and they said that it was not up to them, that it was up to the superintendent. And then they came back and asked for proof that I owned Jason Drive, and we did. I even had to find a lawyer. And we provided deeds paid off of the mortgage, that we paid off the mortgage. We provided deeds. That's why I submitted that permit for the building. And it's not finished yet because I just did it to show them that we are building. So they said, okay, provide. We provided everything they asked for, and then came back and said, this is not what we want. So it doesn't make sense.
As I said before, we are not the school committee,
Yes.
and we cannot do anything there. Knowing the school committee policies, school choice is only an option at the high school. Prior to the high school, you must reside in Dartmouth.
Yes.
So that's where it stands. We tonight have approved you going forth with the trailer,
Okay, thank you.
and now the rest of how you proceed is on you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
So on the motion,
On your motion, so we need a second.
Second.
Oh, Mr. Mickelson seconds that, and so this motion is just simply to, from our board to their committee, to ask them to review their residency policies.
with regard to this particular situation, yes.
Or if there's a waiver, there's a waiver that can be made.
Well, any way they can do it. The problem is, as I see it, there are other people that have their children in Dartmouth school systems that don't live here.
Yes, that's,
And that's been going on for an awful
Yes.
long as I can remember. Unfortunately, you're such an honest person,
that's what happened. I was too honest.
and well, you'll be rewarded in the end,
Thank you.
believe me.
Thank you.
But, my heart goes out to you and the family.
Thank you.
But, and I respect your sincerity
Thank
and
you.
honesty.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. So we are going to vote on the motion before us in support of this letter from the Select Board to School Committee. In favor, Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes,
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
And Mrs. Brooks, yes.
Thank you.
We're asking, I'd like to tell you we have power, we do not.
Hope so.
But-
Thank you. Thank you so much.
God bless, good luck.
Put in a phone call?
I'll do a letter.
A
just
letter?
so there's
Okay.
some-
Reach out to school or anything?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Good luck.
All right, so next on our list, Economic Development Committee charge. And folks, this is in your packet. Starting on, I'll get to the page in 1 second, sorry. But this is really something that we've discussed, and as you may recall, we discussed it at great length last year after meeting with FinCom about what else can we do.
51.
Here we go, 51, thank you, Mr. Mickelson. So page 51, the charge. Cody, why don't you fill us in a little bit more about this?
Sure. So as the chair mentioned, this is something that the board had discussed at great length last year. It was also adopted as part of your goals for the coming year to move forward with this Economic Development Committee. So actually right in line, the timeline was to do it in February, and here we are. So you have the draft charge before you for an Economic Development Committee. The idea really is, there's a few highlights: to identify ways to support existing businesses in Dartmouth, reduce regulatory barriers where feasible, promote local entrepreneurship, and address challenges faced by current employers to encourage stability, expansion, and job creation. Recommend approaches to attract new businesses and investment that align with the town's values, zoning, and community priorities. This may include marketing Dartmouth's assets, waterfront access, proximity of regional markets, quality of life, etc. Promotional materials, and collaborating on an economic development portal or presence on the town's website. Work cooperatively with town departments and other agencies. Solicit input from residents, business owners, property owners, and other stakeholders on economic priorities, and track local, regional, and state economic trends, workforce needs, infrastructure requirements, so on and so forth. So that's really the essence of the committee charge. The makeup is recommended as 7 members. The town staff would be myself, the assistant town administrator, and our director of budget and finance. 5 community members at large. The idea would be to represent the business community, and a select board representative and a finance committee representative.
I certainly think this is a step in the right direction. I know we talked about getting a listing of what's available, already built, empty storefronts, to see what we have to entice people to come. So I think this is something that we've certainly batted around. Reading the charge, is there anything that anyone on this board sees as missing or redundant?
No, I think this, everything that I think that we had talked about, a couple of the things that come out were the relationship with the Chamber of Commerce, the ability of the town to market itself, to market the positions that are open on a volunteer basis, and also the jobs that we have in town, to be able to get out there and be more proactive, I think would be a great result from a committee like this.
I will say we've done a good job internally of creating those relationships. We have a great relationship with the leadership over at UMass, which is largest employer, one of the largest employers. We recently had a meeting with the government affairs team from South Coast Health to really work on that relationship and expand on that relationship. So a lot of this is ongoing, but it'll be good to formalize it, I think, through the creation of this committee.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. McDonald, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. Any further questions? All right, Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
And Mrs. Brooks, yes. Excellent. So that being said, folks out there in our listening community, we're going to be looking for 5 at-large community members, preferably representing the town's business community. But if this is you out there, please send a letter in to the town administrator and show your interest. And there's also a portal on.
Yes, so we'll do some outreach. I will say kudos to our new communications manager. We posted for a capital planning opening on Thursday or Friday of last week. And as of this morning, we already had 5 interested individuals. So
Excellent.
our outreach efforts are certainly working. So we want to keep that trend and going in the right direction.
All right, great. Next, review of the Citizens Academy outline, which, another thing on our goals and on your personal goals.
Yes, this is, I think, a really exciting topic to discuss. It's also in alignment with the board's goals that you had approved a couple of months ago. So this is Citizens Academy. We had discussed it to some extent previously, but I did put together an outline as we prepare to do some marketing of this and get this underway. So the Citizens Academy is essentially exactly what it sounds like. It's an opportunity for our residents to get an in-depth understanding of the town in our inner workings. The goal is to do this through 8 different nights. So it'll be done on Wednesdays, roughly an hour and a half, 6 to 7:30 p.m. We recognize people are busy and work during the day a lot of times, so this would allow them to do it in the evening, hopefully not too much of a task. Look to start on April 1st, run, like I said, 8 weeks. We're limiting the first class to 20 participants. It'll be in person at various town facilities, so depending on the topic that we have going on, it'll be maybe at town hall, it may be at one of the libraries, it could be at the COA. It really depends. You see there's a list of topics that'll be addressed. So the first intro will really be a general oversight of kind of how the town works, our legislative process, town administration. We'll have a night on public safety. We'll have a night in, public safety, police, EMA, harbor master. We'll invite the fire districts in, community services, which is, council on aging, veteran services, parks and rec, library, our administrative services such as town clerk, HR, IT, regulatory services, conservation, planning, health, animal control, inspectional services, finance. This will include all the financial divisions, so treasurer, collector, assessing, accounting, education, so that'll be over at one of the Dartmouth Public Schools, and public works. So this is just a general outline. Also be things like DCTV involved in the community services piece, but we really want to give 20 participants the opportunity to learn more about how Dartmouth really works. And the idea here is if we start on April 1st, we have a graduation, we'll call it, prior to town meeting. And a lot of towns have had a lot of success with this. Will be our first time doing it here in Dartmouth. We'll certainly learn from it. We hope it's successful, and if so, we would look to do this annually, once or twice a year.
I think it's excellent.
Yeah, I think it's great. One thing that I look at is there's no age limitation here, so.
No.
If you have a car and can get to these different locations and can commit to an hour and a half a week, I think it's great even for, the older high school kids. Because if you're considering work in town administration, public safety, any of the topics that are going to be talked about in these sessions, I think it's a great base and a great foundation to have when you start to try and develop exactly what you're looking to do for your career. So this might be, you might get some younger participation. I hope so. I think it would be helpful if we could get this to the high school and let them know that we're going to be kicking this off. I think it would dovetail pretty well with some of the programs that they have at the high school. And even the seniors, the seniors, this is nice opportunity for them to try and figure out exactly where to even volunteer, and what departments need what, and so, yeah, it'd be good.
Ms. McDonald? Mr. Nicholson?
Oh, good.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
Great, fantastic.
Anything? Yeah,
All of
no.
it.
Yes, I think it's great, and having spoken to folks in another municipality who has run this successfully, we're going to make mistakes our first time out, but we will tweak it as we go. But we have a lot of people out there on Facebook that constantly tell us how we should be doing things, and so now's your opportunity to come and learn why we do what we do and how we do it. So, great job. Thank you.
Yeah, good luck.
Do you need us to do anything?
No,
more
it was
on
more
that?
just keeping you informed,
Well,
making progress
Well,
on the
thank you
goals.
very much. And now we have those dates if we'd like to sit in.
Yeah, as we get more things finalized, I'll certainly share it with the board if you're.
Great. And here, we're going to switch gears and invite Mr. Carrero up, the Director of Budget and Finance, and he's going to walk us through the FY 2027 town budget preview. And this is just as we're getting ready to develop the budget, so.
This is something, Gary and I really have been focusing on a collaborative effort. You see this through the Budget Advisory Group. We're trying to, move things up in the process so we have more time to review these things and work together. So we're about a month ahead of where we were last year in the budget process. The Finance Committee has already begun reviewing departmental budgets. One-on-one liaison with the Finance Committee and the administration meetings have already occurred. And so this is something that actually usually takes place in April before the Select Board. But we wanted to, again, in the spirit of collaboration and making sure the board's informed, show you where we are so far in the process. And Gary will go over it in depth, but just keep in mind, these are all projections and estimates at this point. But again, just wanted to give the board an update of where we are. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Cody. Thanks, members of the board, Madam Chair, for having me. As Cody mentioned, this was done a few months earlier, so a few months later last year, but we are ahead of schedule, if you will. And again, just these numbers here are very preliminary as we're starting to still get numbers in from the state and also for local receipts. So I'll walk you through the timeline of where we are. In November, I sent out the budget message, my budget message to the department heads. They were instructed to get that back in December, which they did. And kudos to all the department heads that did that. They get it back timely to me. I then developed the preliminary budget from that information in our Munis software system, and also had from January 5th to the 16th, invited the Finance Committee in, members of the Finance Committee for the one-on-ones, which I call the one-on-ones, and sit down with the departments to talk about any kind of information that they presented in the budget, any new staff requests, so on and so forth, expenses that they may have seen or unforeseen in their budget. We had those in January. And right now, the February timelines that you see there, we're currently meeting simultaneously with CIPC and the Finance Committee. So we've met with the Police Department. Chief Levesque gave his presentation on the budget to the Finance Committee. We've also met with the schools on CIPC. We'll be meeting with DPW and a few other departments going forward for both CIPC and the budget. So we'll wrap those up at the end of February. And on this meeting, this Thursday, we'll actually be going over a preliminary draft of the budget. I believe the schools are voting on their budget. I think is it tonight?
Possibly.
Probably tonight, yeah. So we'll have more concrete numbers on that side, so we can put that into the software, so we can get a full budget for Thursday's meeting. And then obviously the warrant articles are due, and then we'll have a final budget sometime in April. So this is just showing you that we are ahead of schedule, as Cody mentioned. It's nice because we're meeting with the Budget Advisory Group, which is, and also that we'll be also meeting with the Health Insurance Steering Committee as we start to learn more information from what Maya's going to tell us as far as a rate increase. So just to go over a little bit so the viewers at home can see this. So our operating expenses are primarily schools, public safety, public works, community services, general government, debt, benefits, and insurance. This is how the pie looks, if you will. You've seen this in the past, just so that the residents at home can see it. The biggest piece of this pie, obviously, is the schools. And benefits and insurance are what we're looking at for health insurance, life insurance, and any buyouts that we see in the budget. General government being 5% of that. Debt service 4%, benefits, as I mentioned, community services 3%, public works 4%, and then public safety 10%. So we met with the Budget Advisory Group and put the slide together. I think it's a very important slide to look at because out of our whole entire budget, there are fixed costs, and what that means is there are costs in the budget that we don't have, that the town has no control over. I mean, these are either mandates that come down from the state, pension assessments, and so on and so forth. And I can go down the list. Debt services at $2.1 million. Pension and retirement at $6.8 million. Workers' comp, $355,000. Health and life insurance, $9.5 million. Medicare payroll tax, $850,000. property and liability insurance, 1.3 million. Sick and vacation buyouts, 196,000. Voc Tech assessment, 6.3 million. Bristol Aggie assessment, 210,000. Membership and dues, 20,000. Information technology, 577,000. Veterans benefits, about 600,000. And all the utility costs throughout the town, close to $1 million. So these are fixed costs that we have to address in the budget. We have no choice but to pay these right off the top. So when you look at the whole pie, this is net. This is right off the top, if you will. And I think it was a good slide to show what our budget advisory group that we had, so I wanted to include it here. So on our revenue side, the biggest piece of this is property tax. So that's where we're getting a lot of this, the funds to operate the budget. Again, with state aid, I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Our local receipts, overhead indirect costs that we charge back to the enterprise funds, and other available funds in the budget, grant opportunities, so on and so forth. So here are the revenues again. So state aid is at 14%, local receipts at 10%, overhead and indirect costs back to our enterprise funds at 3%, other available funds at 2%, and as you see, the biggest piece of this is property tax at 71% of the budget for revenues. We've talked along the way about Proposition 2.5 and what that means. So the only increase to the levy is a permanent increase is an override. So every year we build on 2.5% off of our previous levy, which includes new growth, any overrides, debt exclusion that we may have. As we go forward, we'll talk a little bit more about what Proposition 2.5 means and how it fits into the budget in Dartmouth. So as far as property taxes are concerned, the entire levy and new growth, this is the breakout. So we're budgeting about $800,000 of new growth in fiscal '27. And additionally, 1.9 million of that will be because of 2.5 on our base levy of 78.8 million. And then we have $870,000 in debt exclusions.
Gary, can you
Yes.
give us some examples of the new growth?
New growth would be any new construction in town. We talk about windows and doors and decks and roofs. That doesn't really add up to much. We're talking about new homes, any kind of facilities that are being built commercially or residentially. So we've been pretty lucky over the last few years to see new growth pretty steady in town. But we've also talked about as the town becomes more and more developed and property and land becomes less and less scarce, we would foresee that new growth number could start to go down. That's something that we constantly look at with the assessor's office. So here's the trend of new growth. Back in 2016, I believe that was a facility that had came into the industrial park that we had. That's why you see a spike in new growth there. And then if you drew a line, you'd see that it's around 650, 700,000. But we feel that 800,000 is a good number to use. We're pretty conservative when we budget for this. I mean, we're not looking to budget $1 million if we're only going to bring in 800,000. And this is off the state's website. So these are the FY26 numbers. So if you added up that pie, it's about 765,000, 770,000. So we feel confident that in fiscal 27, we can remain at that amount. So here's my projected revenues for FY27. Again, these are preliminary numbers. I'll get into a little bit of them. Total tax revenue, 82.4 million. State aid at 16.4 million. I'll get back to that in 1 second. Local receipts at 11.2 million. And other overhead and indirect costs that I mentioned. So about $113.2 million in revenue for being brought in for the town and schools. So I'll go back to state aid. So we just left the MMA conference, and 16.4 million is pretty flatline from what we've seen over the last few years. And when we were at the conference, the governor had made her remarks about how they're spending on local aid. We've got out of the meeting, and that spend was really minimal for Dartmouth at 1.7%. So, and then we went to the Department of Revenue meeting at the end of the day, and they're bringing in revenues at 2.9%. So the spend is at 4%, and the revenues are coming at 2.9%. But keep in mind, the beginning of this fiscal year, at the beginning of this calendar year, is when a lot of the revenues come in for the state. But if that trend continues for the rest of this fiscal year, then we could potentially see a gap in the state budget of probably close to $1 billion. And I know that, Mr. O'Neill and I have had the conversation of what happens if that happens. What happens if those revenues don't come in? And I think the reason why we flatline that 16.4 million is just because of that. We don't want to make these numbers fictitious to the point where we think we're going to bring 16.8, but at the end of the day, we may even see level funded state aid as it goes through the process, as they go through conference committee, the state, the Senate, and the House hears their budgets, and the House Ways and Means. So we feel pretty conservative that the 16.4 will work for us. If you remember back in 2008 when there were 9 seat cuts mid-year under the Romney administration, that was devastating to a lot of communities. And that meant massive layoffs to public safety, schools. So I feel confident that this number here is where we need to be for state aid at this point in time. We will tweak these numbers if they move. But because we're conservative, we can weather that storm if state aid comes down and they end up making cuts.
Excuse me, Mr. Cadero. Typically, when do we find out the actual number from state aid?
Sometimes the budget is right up to the wire. I mean, we can go into May and April. So we do our best estimates to try to get this as close as possible. And we've been pretty accurate over the last few years that the state aid that we've budgeted has been pretty on spot with what the state has recommended. So I actually finalized. Local receipts, I'll talk a little bit about that quickly. So most of our local receipts come from motor vehicle tax. And if you've followed the trends post-COVID, motor vehicle sales have kind of leveled off a little bit. There was a point in time where you couldn't find a vehicle, and now if you go on the lots, you'll see that there's plenty of vehicles. So we've seen that excise tax kind of flatten a little bit. So we're pretty conservative with what we're budgeting there also as far as revenue. I believe we're bringing about $5.6 million in motor vehicle tax. $5.7 million of motor vehicle tax. And one of the initiatives Cody and I had spoke about was the state's doing under the Municipal Empowerment Act is looking to put that pressure back on the cities and towns of Massachusetts to tax individuals more on their excise to generate revenue. But your bill would go from 1 times to 3 times the amount. I mean, that's a hard sell, I think, in a community where, it's really not going to generate a ton more money. And that was part of one of the proposals. So we've talked a lot about long-term capital planning, and now we're getting to the nitty-gritty where we want to know, and we kind of know what the projects are, but how we're going to fund those projects through a debt exclusion. Obviously, that's where we have to be with this. The budget can't support that. The budget couldn't support a brand new school, brand new treatment facility. So. We talk about the Paterson Bridge, the middle school, the high school, potentially a rec center, and what that looks like. Obviously, there's a rate of inflation in all this, so the longer we wait, that just ticks up. And we've talked about that both in the Finance Committee and the Budget Advisory Group. I will say that over the last, I just wrote a statistic down, over the last fiscal years from like 2020 to 2025, the town has certified over $43.8 million in free cash. So that's an average of about $8.5 million a year. And what that means is most of that money for the retained earnings and free cash has gone back into infrastructure, whether we're buying new vehicles, whether we're fixing treatment plants, whether we're maintaining our roads. So I think that's a statistic that is really remarkable. I mean, for a town our size with a $100 million budget, we're now a $100 million budget. I remember Mr. McDonald saying about a few years ago, we're about $100 million. Well, now we're $113 million this year. So it grows. I mean, it grows pretty quick. And I think that's a really good statistic to have. Over the last 5 years, we've certified $43.8 million in free cash. So I think the public it should be proud of that for putting that back out into infrastructure needs. Any questions on this slide?
One of the things I think you always hear is we're a $100 million budget, or you're 113 now. We're actually like 130.
Yep.
Because that doesn't include any of our enterprise funds.
Oh.
So when you add in our enterprise funds, which most communities, when they talk budget, they, you know, talk everything. We're up into that $130 million budget, so just
Yeah,
important
keep
thing
that in mind, yep.
to reference.
So one of the last slides here is, again, what are the pressures on our budgets? The pressure is mainly inflation and cost of construction. I mentioned in a few days, we'll be hearing what the Maya rates are for our town, anywhere between 2.5% to 14%. And the reason why we're seeing a lower range this year is because they will no longer be covering the GLP-1 drugs. So that was a big part of their business. And it's just not going to happen anymore for Maya. So as you know, we have the Health Insurance Steering Committee. We're looking at Maya. We're looking at a couple other JPAs, joint purchase agreements, in the area. So hopefully in the next month and a half, we'll have a good sense of what we can do to save money on pressures on the budget as far as insurance, and what we can do to save the employees and the residents money ultimately. And then I think the biggest thing that we've talked about too is the constraints of Proposition 2.5, and what that means to communities that, you know, since 1980 have had to live with budgets and be conservative. But, you know, like I said, Dartmouth is very lucky because we have those balances, and we have healthy stabilization funds. We're a AAA community, and we have clean audits, so on and so forth. So,
Touch base on the stabilization money. You know, there's free cash in the stabilization funds.
say it again.
You've got the stabilization funds, right?
Yes.
How much of that do we put away every year? How important is it to the bond rating that we currently have, which will affect our ability to borrow, you know, in the future? If you can touch on that a little bit.
Sure. So I would say about maybe 15, 20 years ago, the stabilization fund, and this is only going off history, there were times that they used the stabilization fund to balance budgets here in Dartmouth. We've gone away from that for a long time. For many years, they were putting in about $500,000, $600,000. There were years that they put $1 million in. We're up to about $13 million in that account, $14 million in our stabilization fund. So it's very important, in my opinion, to not draw down from the stabilization fund, just for the points that you had mentioned. It's looking negatively on the bond raters when we go for a bond rating. Let's say we're going to build a $120 million school. They want to see that we're operating with our own revenues. We're not using saved monies, and we call it the rainy day fund. And some people think, well, it's pouring out. It's, the budgets are tight. But that is like a last-ditch effort. That is, to go to those funds are a last-ditch effort. So let's look at the state, for instance. If they're in $1 million budget gap at the end of the year, do they go to their stabilization fund? Because their bond rating will then be lowered. And towns like Dartmouth, who've gone without overrides for a while, there's about 163 towns and communities that have attempted overrides in the last year alone. That's doubled since the last 2 fiscal years. So that shows you where communities are going. Dartmouth is not in that position. That's, we're lucky to be in that position because of conservativeness. But yeah, it would be a negative impact to our bond rating if we were to look at using money out of the stabilization fund. We're actually doing the opposite. We're putting money into the stabilization fund, which has looked positively by the bond raters, which is why we can get low rates when we borrow. We looked at rates, Cody and I looked at rates from other communities that are AAA. They're still around 3%. But then you look at the AA minus or the stables, and they're up around 5% right now. And that's a lot of money on a $200 million project.
I got a question.
Oh, Mr.
Gary,
Mr.
staff
Mickelson.
fund, how long can we continue not to use it? At some point, something could happen, and we'd have to dip into it.
We can use it
When
at
would
any...
that day come, and what do we need to do to not see that happen?
It's kind of a hard question to answer, but we're doing everything we can. We're doing everything right now so that doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. So I can't tell you within the next 5, 10 years or 15 years that won't happen. But the cost that we're taking and the financial policies that we have in place are allowing us and keeping us away from that happening. And I think that's,
What I
yeah.
wanted to hear. Yep, thank you.
Gary, could you, the last time our town went for an override, in my memory, it would have been for the current Dartmouth High School.
That's a debt exclusion.
That was a debt
Yeah.
exclusion.
So the difference between a debt exclusion and an override is, a debt exclusion is only for a permanent amount. Let's like a mortgage, let's say 30 years. Typically, you would add that to your base levy, and then after that 30-year mark, it goes back to just the base levy plus 2.5 and overrides and debt exclusion. An override is a permanent increase to the levy, which never goes away.
And we also did a debt exclusion for the
Police
police station.
Right.
And I believe the library was a I don't know if it was a hybrid or,
It was a hybrid.
yeah,
The hybrid, we had
yeah.
put money aside for that.
And you had state funds.
Right, from,
I think the last
From the library.
override we had was prior to 2010.
yes.
And it was an operational, and it was segmented.
Yep, that's right.
I think half of them,
Some of it was for operations, some of it was for,
yeah, I think half of it passed and half of it didn't, or a smaller portion passed and.
6 parts in fiscal 2009 for schools, culture and recreation, public safety, 2 general operating, and another culture and recreation. And you're accurate, 3 of the 6 passed and
Yeah.
3 of the 6 failed. That was the ones that passed were for, let's see, 89,000 for the public library, 520,000 for police, and 1.5 million for just general operating of the town.
Schools didn't.
It looks like the loss was stabilization fund in the $1 million, extracurriculars at the schools for 325,000, and then 2 million for the schools.
yeah, so going forward, we should still make the commitment. We've lowered that commitment to the stabilization fund, but the commitment should be made every year to put at least some money into the stabilization fund. It looks good, the bond raters appreciate that, and if down the road we're looking to build a school or build a treatment plant, that's just gonna help us even more in that.
Stabilization fund should be 10% of the budget.
Okay. Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great job, Gary, really appreciate it, very clear and understood. I think it also shows the strength of what long-range planning can do, because as we go forward and prioritize these projects, we have the ability to finance them over time in whatever way we're gonna be. We can do it in a way that's less painful, but better planning and more efficient. And I think that's gonna be the process combined of this way we're looking at our current and future budgets to do the right thing and prioritize the projects that either have to be done or we'd like to be done. So thank you, Gary. It's a great job.
Yeah, I mean, just final comment, I think, the town is in good shape and prepared to take on those projects. It's because of what, this board and the finance committee has done.
Here's my
with strong
concern,
financial
Gary,
policies.
and I think I brought it up at the BAG meeting, Budget Advisory Group meeting, is that my concern is federal to state, and how that money's going to flow, and then from the state down to the locals. When the governor comes out and with all these local initiatives, that's always, it just raises the hair on the back of your neck, because what is she saying by doing that? It looks to me as though she's saying that she knows there's a problem coming. And, for the state government to allow us to take a look at increasing excise tax, increased meals tax, hotel tax, that just screams to me that they're going to put more of this on the local communities. So, I think the requirement that we look to increasing or at least keeping level the stabilization fund turn-ins is really important, because I'm a little negative on it. I think that we've got something coming. One question for you out of the MMA. There was this is another indication, right? MMA, there was an initiative for an increase from the 2.5 to allow the cities and towns to go to up to 3%, right? I don't know if that was brought up, if they're still promoting that as an option at the state level.
I had, I'll answer the last question first, but I had had talked to a few folks there, and there's a lot of political pressure to get that done, and I don't see that there's a sense to do that in this environment in Boston, and it's because I think that they've got away with it for so long, since 1980, that the pressure is now put back, as you mentioned, the pressures are now put back on the town. The state's pretty much doing this, and then, but I don't think you have the pull at the state level to even raise that 0.5%. But 0.5% for towns like Dartmouth, which is a minimum aid community, is a lot of money. Yeah. I mean, it funds the schools, it funds everything. So, it needs to be rejiggered, and there's a lot of formulas out there that are just ancient. I mean, look at the formula for regional school districts. I mean, you're talking about formulas that are 25, 30, 40 years old.
Right.
It's just not sustainable.
Yeah.
But I think lastly, to answer the question you had before that, I think Dartmouth is prepared for, in my opinion, anything that comes down for the state. Now, if they're going to cut anything more than what you saw on the screen there, from 16.4 million, we're still able to support that. I don't foresee that she would cut into state aid. I think there might be other initiatives. The governor there might be another initiative that she cuts. I think it's a different time than 2008. And, they may go to the stabilization fund, but I don't think she can lower state aid more than what it's already been handed out at 4%.
Thank you.
Preparing the budget, the other thing we had talked about is knowing during the department discussions, knowing what each department also gets typically every year through grants. Because some of those grants, especially if they're federal grants, may no longer be available to us. And so what were they covering? Were they nice to haves, or were they must haves that we were fortunate enough to have, receive grant money? So that's got to be another conversation. I do know at an offshoot of the MMA at the WEMO discussion, we did talk about moving the needle, the need for the state to allow the cities and towns to move the needle to 3 is because so many override votes in towns are not happening, and then those communities need to scramble because they need to seriously slash their budgets. And there were a number of communities that talked about, through negotiation of personnel, they're not able to make the commitment, but then they go to a vote, and it's not, it's causing some great difficulty. And as far as those local aids, not just on our Chapter 70, but also Chapter 90 in schools, the Department of Education put through a rural education, which took off and gave rural communities some more funding. But we keep seeing that communities like Dartmouth, the cities are being taken care of. The rural communities are now being taken care of, but
I mean, even look
none of those work
at
for
New
that.
Bedford, even if they were to get a 4%, I looked at all the other communities, New Bedford, for a 4% increase. When we have a $700 million budget, you're getting a $20 million increase. It's not really a big increase. So you show the commitment wasn't there this year for state aid. And I don't think that, as I mentioned, that they would cut it any lower than what it is right now. But Cody and I are talking about this almost every day on what the revenues look like and potential ways that we can generate more revenue in town. So it's really definitely on our radar. And I can always give the board an update maybe in a couple more months as we tweak these numbers even further.
It's all about money.
How the world goes around, isn't that how the song goes?
That's all there is.
All right, thank you.
Eric, nice job.
Gary?
Thank you. Next on our parade of hits is topics for June town meeting.
So it's already February 9th. We'll be starting to put together the warrant for the June town meeting. With that being said, we obviously have a number of the annual and housekeeping articles with the budget, capital, so on and so forth. I wanted to take this opportunity, if there's any initiatives from the board that we want to address at the upcoming town meeting or look at to address. This is more of a conversation than anything, just so it can be on our radar. A couple that we are looking at, the snow removal bylaw is something we are looking at. The sidewalk piece is from 1947, And it certainly has worked, obviously, for a number of years, but, there's certain provisions in there that we probably want to update. One of them is, you're supposed to have your sidewalk cleaned 4 hours after the end of a snowstorm. What if you work and you're in the office and the snowstorm ends at 10 a.m.? Does that mean you have to leave work early to abide by this bylaw and have your sidewalk cleared by 2 p.m.? Right. So these are the things we're looking at. We really want to focus on the sidewalks. The reason for it's public safety. And so do we need to look at certain areas within the bylaw that need more attention, such as the Route 6 and Fons Corner Road corridors? So it's something myself and the police chief are looking at. We have these crypto ATMs. I'm not sure if you've heard of these, but essentially you can go, it's an ATM machine, and you buy cryptocurrency, so Bitcoin, any type of other cryptocurrency. They're used essentially for fraudulent activities for the most time. Dartmouth Police have done some work where people are being taken advantage of, right? Told to go to a crypto ATM to pull out, to essentially buy cryptocurrency, right, and send it to somebody. So anyone who wants to buy cryptocurrency typically does it through, a brokerage firm or an account. They aren't going to these crypto ATMs. FBI has essentially said that they're places for crime. So we're looking at.
And we have a couple of them.
We do. We
right
have
at the
several of
mall.
them in town. So do we want to look at, is that something we really want in town? The police chief and I are working on that as well.
So wait a minute, excuse me, we have them presently.
We do,
Yes.
yes.
You're saying you allow them, but not to go forward with any more?
Well, I think we're looking at a bylaw that potentially could ban them in town, but it's
So
just,
it would end up removing the ones
Yeah.
we currently have.
The two that you have.
so those are just a couple items we're looking
That's
at, but if
important.
there's anything else
Yeah.
the board, out of the norm,
Let the
wants
town
to
speak.
look at.
I had a conversation with Dan in the planning department about some changes to stormwater regulations. And he's ready to go on at least into conversation with Tim about some changes that he had in mind. My only request to Tim and to Dan has been, if you're finding resistance in the field from the business community, getting back to the new growth number, right? And you don't think that the resistance makes a lot of sense, but it's in the bylaw, then we need to discuss those things. We need to kind of sit down with the department heads, have them talk to each other about it, try and figure out whether there's some relief without giving away the store and jeopardizing safe water or anything like that. But those are the people that see issues in the field that need an outlet. And bylaw changes, this is the time. So hopefully, Dan's able to get with DPW to talk about it. I've spoken about it publicly about certain individuals in the DPW that go out there and just get their heads kicked in all the time because of the bylaws. They're protecting the bylaw, and I get calls complaining about, well, I can't get this done, I can't get that done. Well, you've got employees that are protecting the bylaw. So you can't blame that individual, in most cases, because they're basically just doing their job. But when you get so many complaints about some things and they kind of make you, wonder whether we need to do those things, then those are the times to have the conversation and get these bylaw changes together for the warrant, in my opinion. So hopefully Dan is able to get together with Tim on something like that. But I'm sure there are other departments that, say, well, it's in the bylaw. Well, as a department head, when you say that, you have to think, okay, yeah, but I'm a department head. I might be able to change the bylaw. If it makes sense, for the citizens, for the taxpayers, and cuts down on the resistance.
Having sat in at a number of ZBA meetings, I believe there are either bylaws that need to be looked at or bylaws that need to be created. There's a number of things that we don't have bylaws for. Parking for apartment complexes, that's not something specific we have. None of the bylaws we might adopt or tweak will, cannot be implemented retroactively for any of the permits we have, but it will help us going forward. If there are things that we see we could be doing better, then we should do them better. So this is a good time. And could we have, for our next meeting, the timeline for June town meeting, like when are those warrants due and all of that? Because they have to be, gone through and have legal counsel look at them, so it's not something we can draft quickly and without input.
That's why this is a good opportunity. If there's
Yeah.
specific topics that the board would like to look at,
Absolutely.
we want to start looking at them.
Excuse me.
Yes.
So mainly pick up on,
Yep.
most of the complaints are in the building department, in my opinion. So if we're going to address.
Regarding bylaws?
Yeah. If we're going to address changes in the bylaws, we've gone through this a few years now. We need to have some people that really are affected by it, and we need to have these people speak up on a committee of some sort and get these builders and contractors involved in something that's, if they can help us more than do damage to it. I think we should listen to them. They're the ones most affected by it. And I believe that's a good way to at least show the people that are affected that we're trying to help them.
I had proposed that, Stanley. It's something that I think is very important. It kind of goes together with the stormwater. But you're right. People that have to adhere to some of these rules that disagree with them, here's the catch, that I don't know if they think they'll be successful in changing some of the bylaws in town, or some of the rules and regulations in town. And they're hesitant to come forward because if you complain about this permit, in 6 more months, I've got to pull another permit, and I'm going to aggravate X, Y, and Z employees, and they don't want to jeopardize themselves. So it's hard to, and I've seen it in my business, people complain about a claim, and they don't want to say anything because they don't, if something happens down the road, they don't want to have a problem. So I think that's where we come in. If we
Have some
can,
kind of dialogue with these
exactly,
people.
we have to have some kind of
Make them
input.
comfortable coming
Yeah.
in. Because at the end of the day, it's going to help everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Streamline things. If we're looking to get more money invested in the town, then we're not going to, what I hear a lot about, there are not a lot of people that want to come into town because they hear that it's so difficult to get permits. Why is that?
So one of the things, Cody, what I'm thinking, is this something that you could talk to department heads?
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
Okay.
it's an ongoing conversation, and
Okay.
like the stormwater one is one that Tim and I have been in discussions about for months, and looking at that and updating. And, yeah, these are things I speak with regularly. Nothing has come up other than really the stormwater. Site plan review for planning board is something they're looking at as well, and a few other things for the planning board. But the stormwater has been kind of the biggest thing. I will say, Mr. O'Neill and Mr. Mickelson bring up good points. We've been trying to do a bylaw review for 7 years.
Yep.
And can't get anyone to do it. It's a huge undertaking to get individuals. So we can certainly try to recruit again, but the town's been trying to get volunteers. A number of you served on the charter review committee, and that was a laborious task. The bylaws are, just as in-depth, if not in some cases more thorough. But we haven't had success in getting a full review.
You know what? It's a good point that you bring up. In the Charter Review Committee, if not for the people complaining about certain aspects of how things are run, we would not have come up with the 5 members on the DPW board, right?
Correct.
That was brought from the public into Charter Review and back out to the warrant. And also the change to rules and regulations. We wouldn't have gotten that through unless people in the fields were complaining about that issue, and it came through charter review again and back out to the warrant. So it does happen.
It takes time,
But
but
it
we
takes
need to
time.
be
But I think you're
resilient
right.
about
I
it.
think we need a forum for people to feel, that they can bring these issues up without jeopardizing the next permit or the
Exactly.
next
Yep.
request for service.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That being said, I know just taking a cursory look at the bylaws, that there seems some that seem to me to be very antiquated, and we have some things that are regulatory now that are not bylaws. So I think there's almost like it's a two-phase. We need to look at the bylaws and pull those out that are no longer under the concept of a bylaw, and, you know, make sure that they're articulated somewhere as a regulation in our community. So,
Yeah, because there are always things that are subjective, right? So if they're,
Yeah.
if they're a regulation and you've got a little bit of leeway and something makes sense to do it, then the department heads, that's what you hire good department heads for, to be able to step up and say, you know what, that makes sense, let's do that. You know, they don't have to adhere to a very strict black and white bylaw. So you get a little bit of help if you take it out of the bylaw into regulation, and vice versa, I would assume, you know, where you take it out of regulation and you want to take away the subjectivity and you put it in the bylaw and say, no, that's what we want. So I think it goes either way.
Got to walk that fine line, that's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
So,
Well, one example of going outside of the regulation is in the building department, when, at the time, the building commissioner was asking for engineered drawings on setbacks, we had developed a waiver from the homeowner that the homeowner would have to sign, but also provide a plot plan to show that whatever they were doing was well within the, you know, the setbacks. And that, you know, they signed a document saying that, you know, they were going to do that. And that way, you know, it saved them $2,000-3,000 on engineered drawings.
I did it for a project at the house. It was
Yeah.
very helpful.
Yes.
They didn't have to get a stamp plan that cost $3,000.
Exactly, and it also helped, and that also helped, you know, some businesses, you know, vis-à-vis like a pool.
Yeah.
A pool guy, you know, pool guy was putting something, you know, a pool in the middle of,
Right.
of a 2-acre lot, and, you know, he didn't need engineered drawings because it showed exactly where it was gonna go. So, I mean, that's, it's something like that, you know, it made sense. You know, it took some time, but, you know, I mean, you know, we have bylaws that, you know, thank goodness, if, going back, we don't have bylaws that say that women can't wear yellow dresses on Saturdays, and that, you know, nobody can have a goat on a, you know, on a leash on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have that anymore, so I'm sure somewhere down the line, there's something weird in one of our bylaws that nobody's ever found, but I had, you know. But yeah, you're right, trying to find somebody to do a bylaw, to get on the bylaw committee, review committee, has been going on for the last 6-7 years, and we haven't really found anybody, because nobody wants to sit through that morass of all the bylaws, so, you know.
all right. Moving on, town administrator update.
Sure, so just a couple of things. As we mentioned, CIPC has begun meeting. We're also happy to share that those are now being recorded, so you can find those on DCTV online on the YouTube channel. CPC applications were due at the end of January. Those are being reviewed by the Community Preservation Committee tomorrow evening, and then will be presented from the applicants at their meeting in March, and then they will recommend hopefully several of those for funding at town meeting in June. Of those, we do have one at DCTV for the historic preservation of that building. That's a significant project, close to $500,000 to do the exterior work there, so we'll keep you updated on that. I also want to recognize we've had a number of new employees start over at our DPW. John Connell is an associate engineer, brings a wealth of experience. Andrew LaFleur is our new assistant superintendent of water and sewer, also brings a wealth of experience, most recently oversaw operations for the treatment for all the water servicing the city of Providence, so a lot of experience there. Franick Jamie, HMEO laborer, again, a lot of experience. Tanner Figueredo, HMEO laborer, and Brandon Zusom, as an HMEO laborer, so, and again, experience. So we're filling all those positions over at DPW, and we're finding people, high-quality individuals with a lot of experience.
And I know the chair of the DPW is very thankful for your work and Suzanne's work,
Yeah.
Sue's work in HR.
Good, yeah.
So, well done.
Our HR team's been doing a phenomenal job recruiting and getting those filled. Last but not least, very excited on our partnership, ongoing partnership with UMass Dartmouth. Our leadership teams have had several meetings. We most recently met last week, and I think we have a lot of exciting initiatives that we'll be working on together. So I would
Great.
share that the public should keep their eyes out for some things we're going to have going on in the next few months with UMass Dartmouth. But it's a good relationship we have with them, and we're excited to expand on that.
Excellent. All right. Next is proposed town projects, which we'll be looking at, is it the next meeting or
No,
March?
I have it. Yep, I
Oh,
have
you
the
have it,
proposed town
okay.
project. So I emailed it out, but I'm just I'll go through quickly a few of the changes since the last month when we reviewed this. So the first one's in commercial projects. The First Citizens headquarters on Old Fall River Road. They have applied for their building permit, and that is in process of being awarded. South Coast Behavioral Health on Fons Corner Road, that construction is in process. Let's see, the next one would be 411 Fons Corner Road, which was the New England Farms gas station convenience store. They have all their approvals, and they've applied for the building permit. On 576 Fons Corner Road, which is a proposed corporate masonry office, that has, let's see, actually, that's the wrong, sorry, give me 1 second. Just went up.
Dave, you still with us?
Is that Lighthouse Masonry?
There we go. Okay. They were continued to the February 12th ZBA meeting. And then the Zero State Road, which is the Audi Volkswagen dealership, ZBA has completed and approved that application. They still need to go through the site plan review process, which they have not applied for yet through the planning board, but that'll be their next step. Under the multifamily development projects, we have the Preserve, which was the 40B that was approved in 2018, 2019 on Route 6. They have secured building permits for 3 of their buildings, so we should start to see vertical construction for at least a few of their buildings go up. 704 Dartmouth Street, that construction is in process. That's the 55 plus 89 apartments. On the Sherbrooke Farms, which is the 40B preserved on Old Westport Road, that has been continued to March 16th, and they have agreed to an extension of the public hearing process until May 14th. On Hawthorne Country Club, former Hawthorne Country Club, another 40B, that next meeting before the ZBA is this Thursday, February 12th. We have on State Road, it is 802 through 808 State Road, 56-unit multifamily development. That has been approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals, and they have submitted an A&R to the Planning Board. And the last but not least, 813 State Road, which is for 7 duplexes and 1 home on a senior housing. They have, they're in the process of going through that permitting in the Planning Board.
All right, so on Facebook, they say a big Y is coming.
We have not received any formal permits for a Big Y.
Okay.
Big Y has, in some discussions approached the town. We also saw that the Big Y put out a press release that they would be
What is a
opening up.
big Y?
They specifically mentioned Dartmouth.
Big Y did put out a press release. They then reached out to us after the press release. And we have had.
Just like Eversource.
We have had conceptual meetings, however, they have no permits have been applied for. They are looking at the former Christmas tree shop.
Right. That's a good spot.
But again,
It's a great spot.
it's not in this list because they haven't applied for any formal permits.
Okay.
So where would Spirit go? Back to Circuit City, I guess.
A couple of 3 years.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right.
Circuit City or Office Max, they were there too.
Yeah, true, they were.
Well, our Economic Development Task Force will be
We're
figuring
gonna
that
have to
out.
work on that.
All right.
Hold it.
Anything for old business?
No, just, I already touched base on the 40Bs. No new updates on Bliss Corner, Lake Nokichoke. Municipal broadband, interestingly enough, we do have a provider who reached out some months ago about coming in and providing broadband. They have re-engaged the town, and so we have asked them to provide some sort of, preliminary plans, documents. We're hopeful we'll have something in the next couple of months that we can present and actually start to see some progress on that.
I thought he went away.
Yeah, they've come back around.
All right. Next, folks, we have our minutes,
They're in a couple.
and our minutes, my thing has shut down. Our minutes are from January 26th, which is our last time together, which means these minutes are coming out very quickly these days. So if we look at this, this is when we were all remote.
Weather related.
I was absent, Mrs. Brooks.
And Mr. Tattlebaum was absent. This is on page 70.
Honest Joy.
You don't understand that.
LCIs.
Motion to approve.
I didn't see anything.
I didn't see anything. There was
Second.
a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of back and forth on that one. Motion to approve made by
Second.
Mr. McDonald, seconded by Mr. Mickelson. See Mr. Neal's face, I'm trying to read it. If
Oh, I'm good.
Are you, we're gonna be okay? All right, all right, ready to approve, Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
Abstain.
Abstain. Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
And Mrs. Brooks, yes, so that's 4 yes, 1 abstention. Next, select board updates. I will start with Mr. O'Neill.
Pass.
All right, Mr. McDonald.
I'm good.
Okay. Mr. Tattlebaum.
Same, I'm good here.
Okay. Mr.
Fine.
Mickelson, fine? Am I passing it back, Mr. O'Neill, or you're passing completely?
I'm passing completely.
Okay, the only thing I want to respond to is a number of folks who have reached out concerned about their mailboxes. So if in any of the storms, your mailbox was wiped out by DPW plowing, contact the DPW directly. Let them know your address, they will assess the damage, and they have been processing and getting new mailboxes out to folks. So no need to contact me. You can go right to the DPW.
Lucky then.
So there we go. All right. Anything else for the group?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. McDonald. Just so that folks are aware, our next meeting is March 9th. So, all in favor of adjournment, Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald? Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
And Mrs. Brooks, yes. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone, one and all.
Happy birthday, Kayla.
And yes, good move. Drive safe.